What's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to Season 2 of the MindShare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. This is episode 95. He is the CEO of the Ontario Real Estate Association, Canada's largest provincial real estate industry association, representing 78,000 realtors. He joined OREA after a distinguished 21 years of public service in the Ontario Legislature, including 5 years as leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. Since becoming CEO in December 2016, he and his OREA team have focused on transforming OREA into Ontario's most effective professional association that delivers high-impact advocacy on behalf of realtors and consumers and provides quality services to members. During his first year there, he was named one of the most powerful people in residential real estate by Swanepoel Power 200 in 2017 and 18. It is my pleasure to welcome Chief Executive Officer of the Ontario Real Estate Association, a man I call a friend, Mr. Tim Hudak. Tim, welcome to the MindShare Podcast.
Hey, David, thanks for being back on. Try to show a bit more enthusiasm. The show, man. Hey, thanks for being back on. It's great to see you. I hope you've had a good summer, and I'm thrilled to be on episode 95. It's happens to be my lucky number, so.
Wow. Now, are you just pulling my leg on this one, or 95 is a pretty random lucky number, but that's cool, man. And you know what? It's seriously, it's a pleasure. It's always great to talk to you. It's always great to join, be together somewhere, be it on the stage somewhere, some event, online together. But I'm excited for today's conversation. I thank you for making the time to join us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for all the work that you're doing to get the word out to help people through some tough times and look to, brighter times ahead. Really appreciate your leadership, David. And thank you. You've been a big part of our OREA programming over the years, so it's fun to be back on your show.
Absolutely, and it certainly has been a crazy time over the past number of months here, and we've seen a wild roller coaster of things going on. I'm also, I want to be an opportunist right now and say that the next 30, 60, 90 days are presenting some wonderful opportunities for us in this industry. And I think that as long as people are doing the things they're supposed to be doing, there's going to be a lot of success coming from it. Now, I want to get into that stuff, but I wanted to ask you, we know that real estate is a people business, and so are most businesses out there. It goes without saying. In your time, you've done a lot of campaigning. And I would suggest that every time a realtor is out there executing on marketing, they too should be thinking about, campaigning for their next deal. So I'm curious, what are the most important factors to consider when running a campaign, and obviously keeping in mind who our audience is today?
Yeah, a lot of parallels. I appreciate you thinking of that, David. I did 21 years in public life. When 6 elections, you're kind of walked through my bio, and now come December, 4 years as CEO of the Real Estate Association. It's been great, thrilling part of the career to have those two things, but you have a lot in common. So, number one, you've got to be a people person. People just, after all these, tens of thousands of years of programming and evolution, people just intuitively know if you're being sincere. Are you looking them in the eye? Do you mean what you say? Do you actually care about them? Do you understand the kinds of discussions that they and their spouse are having around the kitchen table, right? That's number one is success in real estate and in politics. Hand in hand with that, the twinest reputation is king. If you have a reputation, be there for people, not just on one deal, but in the long run, looking out for them, following up for them, showing some love in between sales. There's an old expression that you use in politics too, that the first day of the campaign comes one day after the last campaign. You're always then communicating with voters, showing them what you can do for them. And then 4 years later, you hope they'll give you another shot at the job, right? Same with real estate. So constant communication, getting back, showing you're working on the issues that you said you would at the end of the day. And nothing beats the importance of relationships in both of those businesses, trusting, long-lasting relationships.
And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I think that and I want to talk further to that as well, of what is our goal and our role out there. But, you just said something that's important too, is right after that last day, it's like the first day begins. And I think that there's a massive parallel there that says, when we're out there and we're working to get a deal every single day, and that's the goal, right? Is to get out there. I mean, that's what our end goal is. I believe the goal should be, back to what we just said, is to build the relationship. And that's where the campaign again begins, literally the day after. So and I think that, looking at live examples there, this could be when we look at, I got a deal done and I might have helped you buy the home of your dreams, move your family. What am I doing for you literally right after that? Much the same. Okay, now that deal's done, what have I been doing to get the next deal? And to that, I mean, how important is it? Because when I think about, the politics side of things, like the political side of things, and we always see that of that old adage, right? Getting out there, shaking hands, kissing babies. It's that thing of getting out there, putting the smile on, getting to know people, but letting people know that you're a real human being. And I think that that's one of the biggest things is, especially for what technology has done to us, it's allowed us to almost, and this is all COVID aside, and the fact that we've got to go virtual for many of the things we do, but it's allowed us now to almost sit back behind a screen, behind a keyboard, and communicate. But it takes away that opportunity to physically get out there and connect with people. So I'm curious, like, what's your take on that in terms of the importance of shaking hands and seeing people and making the phone calls, truly connecting with others? I mean, could you have even had as much success over your amazing career had you just been literally behind a screen?
No. It's hard to imagine. I guess we're moving into that, and we'll come out of it. We gradually are, right? We will have the return to the handshake. Eventually, you can kiss babies again. I'm going to advise it right now. Everyone has some pretty angry moms out there if you try that old trick. But look, one thing I always try to do, which each election campaign, I built up a larger win than the previous ones, until you're out of government, but for every year I'd have more votes. And a lot of that was, after the election campaign, it's not like, you're trying to say a week later, vote for me again in 3 years. Like, I'm going to sell your house in 3 years. So I'm going to work you today, but you make sure you're there. So you provide them with information that's going to help make their life easier, to save them time or money. You invite them to community events. So in politics, I always had a barbecue. I'd have Tim Hortons hot chocolate, coffee, and Timbits for the kids, and rent out the arena. I try to be visible at events, and if they had a question for me, to service that question as quickly as possible. Kept track of that data bank, and people, well, some will have allegiance to political parties, most people don't. And if you went the distance for them, you helped them out in some way, gave them a crucial tidbit that helped make their life better, they'd be very loyal to you. So I see a lot of the same success in real estate. And I know we'll talk later, David, about the upcoming survey we're releasing on Monday through OREA about the state of the market. But we've done previous work, and we found a remarkable number of people who aren't loyal to their realtor. And I think a lot of that, when you dig down, is, well, after she sold my house, I didn't hear from her again, right? So I think there's a lot to be picked up, just like in the world of politics, by continuing to try to service people.
That's an interesting one, because I believe that I read that stat about 15 years ago. Now I fully know that the stuff we're getting now is today, but that's scary stuff.
It can be. You leave a lot on the table, right? And one thing I try to do, and I wasn't the best at it, is you'd often hear about politicians, they only come around when there's an election campaign. Well, you turn that on your head. You're actually around constantly, not in the face, but there and helping. And I think there's a lot of parallels between the world of real estate and the world of politics.
Sticking to that, and this is something that just hit me, right, is a lot of times when we're in our own shoes, we cannot see the things that are affecting maybe what we're doing, affecting our success, maybe things that are causing good or bad thoughts. And so for everybody watching and listening right now, I really want you to tune into to what was just said there, right? And I want you to think about this, as opposed to thinking about this as a realtor, or think about it as a homeowner. Think about it as somebody who pays taxes, who's out there. Think about the politicians, and think about, to what Tim just said, around, this thought of they're only around during campaign time. Now, if you're sitting there going, yeah, that's kind of how I felt. Now I want you to do the parallel here and go, okay, so what are you doing in your business to ensure that the thought is not, you were just there for a commission check? Get out there, continue to be there. So how does this stuff then translate into, marketing and growing my real estate brand? I mean, and again, I'll continue to kind of use this example around, campaigning, because it's a big deal. It's the same idea. We're getting out there, we're meeting people, we're building mindshare, and people have to get to know us, like us, and trust us.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've not practiced in real estate. I'm just honored to represent almost 80,000 people who do.
Absolutely.
But certainly in 21 years in politics, branding was paramount to ongoing success. So a consistent look and feel, whatever your motive is, that you not only put that on your signage and your mail outs and such, but you actually live it and breathe it across all forms of media and your interactions in the community. But I tried almost everywhere I could, David, to be consistent to my brand, which was working hard for you. That I would demonstrate in visuals, online, or anything I did in mail or in the community, that I was working hard for the constituents. And even sometimes wasn't party line, you'd still take up the local issue. You'd deliver that local bridge, money for the community center. You always try to put in that theme, and visually and in action, keep it consistent. As soon as you lose it, all that investment is gone.
Key word, consistency. We talk about this so often, and it's so hard to be consistent with things. I mean, it's such an easy thing to say. It is so hard to do. And this goes into a bigger play around your systems, around how you build your business, how you do your branding. What does your brand look like out there? What does your brand say about you out there? What do you say and do to, again, sort of reinforce what your branding is? And so much of that important. Consistency is the big deal there, right? It's getting out there and just continuing to talk to people. There's that big importance that says you can have all that direct mail, and you can have, again, mailers and ads and all sorts of things going on. But if you're not out there connecting with people, that true connection doesn't happen.
Yep, I think that's very true. The other thing I'd add to that, and again, I'll just put this out there from my experience, my previous job, whether it's makes sense in real estate or not, I like to see that you're human too. I found that if you actually, people won't believe this, I'll just let, you got a large audience at MindShare, so I'll let a big secret out of the bag here. Politicians are actually people too. Most
Go figure.
Not all, most. So, one of the biggest things I get a response on was annually I sent out a Christmas card. I had a Christmas card list. I'd put in paper, and there's a picture with my wife, Debbie, would pick out the scene and our daughters. And it's incredible, David. Year after year, people would identify the picture. It was usually a place of, local beauty in Niagara, something that was, whether it was a local greenhouse or a vineyard or whatever. So anything to do with family and real life, those types of visuals or stories really caught the imagination of the average person out there. They identified with it. They had a similar experience. The story touched their heart. So, it doesn't hurt to, even if politicians can pretend they're human, everybody else can demonstrate that in their material too.
It's interesting you say that. I'm curious then, and I got to ask you this, taking a photo with family and putting that out there to the world. And where I go with this is, there are many people that are very scared of that. They're fearful of sharing, the inner workings of their life, family and that type of stuff, and what they do and how they do. There is a big fear around that. And so people are hesitant, which then means, and I love what you said there, we're missing the authenticity. We're missing that true, hey, this person is a person. They're a real human being. There's somebody that I could potentially build a relationship with. Was there any fear from your side around here in Canada, everybody knows you, right? And knows, through all the positive things you've done. Was there fear to go, open myself up that side of my world? Or on the flip side, were we seeing the benefit of that, of like, hey, listen, if I get out there and I share a little bit more about me, we see the opportunities that are there?
Yeah, it took me a while to get there, to be quite frank. A bit of background. I got elected for the first time when I was 27 years old. And I know, Dave, you're saying, oh, that was only about 20 years ago then. Tim. I appreciate you saying that. I was a kid. I came from out of nowhere.
I was thinking only 10 years ago.
I wasn't supposed to win. And I was very self-conscious about my age at that point in time. So I did things that, try to make me look a bit older, so to speak. I didn't have the, family picture on the card. I was still single. I had a picture of the legislature. And so I think I missed, and I came across a bit inauthentic, be a bit robotic, and therefore not sincere, and learned over time that people do want to know that, as you said, that you are authentic, that you may have flaws. Now, you don't want to do it to a point of distraction. You don't want to be some clown or something, right? Mm-hmm. You want to make sure it reflects what you want to be about, but it doesn't hurt to do that sort of thing. And the art of storytelling, the ability to relate an adventure that you've had, somebody in your family, or you heard from a constituent. It's amazing how people will remember, 20 stories for every single fact or number. I was far too much in stats and prove this and prove that, when anecdotes went a long way. I remember an example, not as pertinent to our audience today, but talking about welfare reform, and I talked about how welfare rates were high here and low there, and the minimum wage, and we didn't pay to work. And I told a story about a buddy I grew up with. He actually lived right next door in the exact same neighborhood. And he got mixed up with a bit of a bad crowd. He went a little sideways in high school, and he ended up on welfare. And he was pissed off when we cut welfare when I was in government. I saw him at a bar we used to hang out at. He said, "Tim, you cut my check by 20%. And what it did, though, is it gave him a bit of a kick in the ass. And he actually went out there, got some training. So I saw him a few months later, David, and he said, "You know what? I cashed my first paycheck that I've had in years. It feels much better. I got a bank account." And then told me he got a house down the road, right? And those types of stories that are heartwarming and have a point people can identify with go so much farther than those stat sheets I used to lay out when I started my career.
Well, I'm gonna share back to the audience and say that there's a learning moment right there, and this is something that I really preach, advocate for, and I really push everybody out there. And I always say to you guys, if all you're doing is posting listings and open houses, you're boring, right? It's boring. It's what we see across now. It's not that you shouldn't be sprinkling that stuff into your world to show, hey, I'm a professional. I know what's going on out there. I can really help you with this. You can trust me. That being said, to what you just said there, Tim, it's that story. It's that connection point, that real life moment. That is what people connect with. The family on the card, the story with the neighbor. These are things that people will actually connect with. They will actually resonate with. We will start to internalize. And that's why, again, my spin on today, campaigning for your next deal, is that everybody watching and listening can really take yourselves out of the shoes for a moment, look at it as somebody else rather than looking at yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, how can I, again, take that and use it to my advantage in my real estate business? And so back to, I guess the point to that is, don't be shy to let people in. It's not that you got to let them into everything. But the more that you can share real life moments of you, your family, good news stories that have happened, maybe even some of your down moments without, like you said, I love it, without being the clown, being professional about it. Now people will start to go, you know what? I could sit and talk to this guy. I could go to the bar with this guy. I could work with this guy or hire this guy, gal, everybody, right? That's the key. So taking that then, if I asked you the question of, what is the role of the realtor? What would you say?
Well, I believe it's helping people connect with the Canadian dream of home ownership, helping them find that amazing place to call home, to raise their family, a place of security. And that's what I say. I don't think it's selling houses. I think it's helping people achieve their dreams and finding a place to call home, right? That's what it's all about. And that's how I think of my job. Again, I'm not in the business. I'm not doing the hard work on the streets. I'm above helping pave the way for realtors to get more powers at Queen's Park and such. But I wake up every day to say, I'm out there helping the people who are going to help that next family find a great place to call home. And when I bought the place where I'm in the basement here as part of the COVID world, this place in Yonge and Lawrence in Toronto, when I took on the job as CEO, my daughter didn't quite understand what OREA was. She thought it was some kind of cookie, right? She got politics, but that was all about.
Wasn't that how Seth spun it for reality?
He stole my line. That's a marketing genius he is.
That's where he came from, eh? Now we know the secret behind Seth Godin, Mr. Tim Hudak.
It's riveted my mind. So we buy this house and the place is empty, and girls being like girls would be in the dining room, living room. It's just a hardwood floor, and they see it as a dance floor. They start dancing around. They're happy. And then my daughter turns to me and she says, "Now I understand what you do. You help the people that help other kids get a great place like this." And that really hit home for me what the job was all about.
And the key word being helping people.
Yep.
Because that's something that I've said for a long time here. And I mean, I'm not the first to say it. I won't be the last to say it, but we are not out there selling and buying real estate. We are helping people to buy and sell real estate. And so, that brings in the ethics, that brings in, how you conduct yourself, how you go out there and help people. What are you doing for people? How are you thinking about people and what they are looking for, their needs, right? Because the more we can understand somebody's needs, the more we can serve those needs, the more we can help somebody. And now, we've just taken the whole thing full circle. We are helping people, and now they're achieving their dreams.
That triggers something for me too. Like during this whole COVID crisis and everything was shut down. I remember, getting a mailer here from a local realtor who gave me things that we could do with our kids, right? It had nothing to do with selling a home, just trying to give me something that I could use to show that, we understood where kids were home. They were restless. They missed their friends. They had no school. So here's some things you can do with your kids that are safe. I thought that was great. Ray Ferris may be a fan of your show, I think. Ray was
the man. Ray's the man.
CEO of the Real Estate Association. He had a great idea too, where I know down because my home's in Niagara, not too far from Ray. He put out all the restaurants in his community that were doing home delivery. Because, you hop around, you try to find it on sites, especially during the transition. There's a service that shows you care, that you're trying to help the average person out. You're not making a buck out of it. And it was something that showed that the realtor, both those examples, actually was understanding what other human beings were going through and trying to help us through a tough time.
I think one of the biggest things you can do there is get out there. I mean, that was one thing that I certainly was really screaming from the rooftops when we started embarking on this entire thing of get out there and connect with people, make your phone calls. And I mean, we had somebody who turned to me one day on one of these things and a big sort of live with all sorts of people on. They said, I don't feel comfortable calling people. And, I don't want to talk about real estate right now. I said, well, I'm not suggesting that you talk about real estate. I'm suggesting you just call people and say hello, see how people are doing. And one of the things, I know I was interviewed with Ann Romer on one of her radio shows there. And she had asked me, she said, what are you advising people? I said, well, make the call, just touch base, call, families with young children and find out how people are doing. Call people that, elderly and find out if they need help. Call the local shop owners and see how they're doing, because they're the ones that are suffering right now, looking around going, am I going to be able to keep the lights on, keep the doors open? You're not coming in for your milk and your eggs, and just touch base with people, right? And again, help people, build relationships with people, right? Powerful stuff. I mean, that's what this business is really all about, is it not?
I got to think so. And it certainly was seen that proving out when the market dried up. And I think those that were doing that work are during June, July, are seeing the benefits in August and September and will for the long haul.
Key right there was everything that you did back there, wherever there was, will start to bear the fruit here or a little bit further down the road.
Yep.
Yet we cannot expect, like here, I was going to say to you, right? What should a realtor's goal every day when they wake up? What should their goal be?
You're asking me that?
Yeah.
I just gotta think it's contacts. I just gotta think
mindsets and stuff, right? Like, where should they be at?
Yeah, well, obviously you got to educate yourself. You got to stay informed what's happening. I mean, that's the goal that realtors can bring to average folks, is the generalist that understands what's happening in every neighborhood and a community, where the opportunities are, where the market is going. So no doubt about that. But I think if I were in that business and had been in a parallel world, that it would be making a certain number of contacts every day, just keeping fresh right across the board, just reaching out, touching base, and staying on top of things, reinforcing and building that network.
We have a term for that. We call it building MindShare.
Oh, there you go. I'm in.
Had to drop it.
Sign me up.
So as we so talking about the past few months, and when we look back on this, what do you think as an industry, what was the biggest thing that we learned as an industry over these past 6 months then?
Yeah, well, I think there's that COVID has turned the entire world upside down. Everything has changed except for two things. The one is the Toronto Maple Leafs inability to get anywhere in the playoffs.
Why do you got to do that,
COVID,
man? Why do you got to do that? You just threw me right off. I'm like depressed for the rest of the day now. I got people online that are laughing at me right now. Go Leafs, go!
Yeah, sorry, the easy joke to make it, even the Leafs. But the second one is Canadians' belief in real estate. Right, it's just part of our culture. It's what we aspire to, whether you've been here for generations or you've newly come into our country. That you want to own property, you want to have the security of a home for your family and a long-term investment. So while COVID slowed that down, and 2020 was looking like a pretty strong year across the board, across our province pre-COVID, while COVID slowed that down, we've seen that pent-up demand that's come back into the marketplace. We're seeing people who continue to invest. We are doing monthly surveys with Nick Anos, and we do webinars through our REA COVID website, reacovid19info.com. And we're keeping track of consumer data. So we saw still a strong belief, unchanged by COVID, in the value of investment, sustained interest in getting into the market or getting a larger home. Sure, some put it down the road. For those looking for business, there's a lot of interest out there. They're just watching the market a little bit and not entirely sure. That number is shrinking as more people get involved. But it showed the sustaining power of the Canadian dream who want to get into the marketplace. And while I feel confident that, 2020 won't be exactly the way it looked back in January, February, the brakes were tapped a little bit. It's still going to be a strong year, whether you're in a big city, a small town, and particularly cottage country.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I think there's to take out of that even is to sit back and look and say, as we have not wavered and our desire to be involved in real estate as a Canadian, to, again, our listeners and everybody here, it's important to look and say, when we talk about putting yourself out there and getting out and connecting with people, part of this is how do we add value and understanding, and through, all the surveys and research you guys do, that's a big one to understand, right? Is that people still want to get into real estate. So what can we do to put some value out there and educate people on how they can get into real estate investment and be it home ownership? Forget about even just investment as an investor, but how do I get into home ownership? And so now if we can go out there and provide that value, again, what do? We're putting knowledge out there. We're creating trust with people. We're building mindshare. They're going to think of you as the person because you just keep feeding them with stuff. Finally, it's like, hey, I got a question for you now. And now they ask, and now you're kind of in.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, those that had been doing that work before are benefiting now. Those who had adopted consumer-friendly technologies certainly are benefiting, but it's never too late to do more of both of those things in terms of going for the mind share, embracing technology to communicate better with people, right? You can still play catch up. In our numbers, we found really no surprise after we all been cooped up in our own home prisons for several months. I think every couple's probably had a dozen at least conversations what they love or hate about their current home. So our data in July showed that about 30% of people who were in the market have now shifted to looking towards more space. So whether that's a backyard, a bit more room in the house, a home office, it's common sense, right? But it is bearing out the numbers. When we release, we'll have more to say about that when we release our August numbers on Monday. We did find an increased interest in rural and suburban. It doesn't mean a flight from the cities. I suspect that means that people who are already thinking that way, maybe accelerating their decision-making process, or feel tired of the commute, hope that will work. So those are two shifts. But the fundamentals of, number one, believing in real estate as an investment, and number two, faith in using a realtor to complete that deal and make sure that somebody has your back, those two values were really strong throughout COVID and continue to be on a rise afterwards.
Yeah, and I think that as we look back over these 6 months, and we think to ourselves that everybody came into 2020 with big goals, big hopes, big dreams. We knew back in the spring that we were more or less walking into a seller's market. We were going to get into a lot of multiple offer situations, and then this thing called the global pandemic hit and changed everybody's plans. And we went into our self-isolation in our homes, and great point there is that a lot of people started to look at, do I need more space? How could I operate differently? And it taught us a lot as well. It showed us, that we are resilient as a society. It showed us that, no matter what hit us, as we look at the real estate market over the past, the past 60 days, 90 days, most of the people I've been talking to are on fire, like in a good way. Like things are happening. People are busy. I know as we talk about suburban, or even we go north rural, we go into cottages. My friends up there, my clients up there are slammed busy in a good way, which is amazing. And I think that we should be taking advantage of a lot of that stuff. Much the same as we look ahead to the next 30, 60, 90 days. I believe we've got some factors that are affecting our market. And I believe that there's a lot of opportunity there. We think to things like, mortgages. We think about unemployment. We think about school, right? We think to these different, if the kids don't go back to school, right? What happens to people's employment? If the people aren't going back to work, what happens to paying back the mortgage deferrals? And now, again, we're looking at these different factors that are affecting what opportunities are there. But I'm going to take that full circle as well and say, if you make the calls, if you plant the seeds, if you do the things you're supposed to be doing, then you can pick up the phone and connect with somebody and see how people are doing and potentially help somebody make a move, help somebody downsize, help somebody refi, right?
For sure.
There's
For
a
sure.
lot there to take advantage of. So I'm curious now, as I say that, what do you see as sort of, or what are we looking at over the next 30, 60, 90 days? Where do we see kind of the landscape going in terms of possibly market or things that we may learn, just anything coming up?
Yeah, so I'll do big picture, then I'll do a couple of targets. So, big picture wise, all of the things that drove demand before, a lot of millennials who are, getting promoted or starting to settle down with families, maybe have the kid coming along or looking to get into the marketplace. Mortgage rates are even lower than they were and seem to be trending down currently. We have the bank of mom and dad, the boomer generation, the best off financially in their savings, who can help their kids. They love their kids, but my God, they wouldn't mind if they got out of the house and got a place of their own. So those things are all quite strong. Our economy is improving, obviously not as strong as it was, but the positive signs there. Now the brakes are a little bit, immigration has slowed down and probably will be slowed down for a while yet. So that's a bit of an impact on the GTA, not a stop, but a bit of a pump of the brakes. And then secondly, you nailed it with the mortgage deferrals and how that will all shake out. Now, I just believe that you've got a minority government in Ottawa. The prime minister and the other parties will want to get reelected. And they looked in the States in 2008 and 2009 when people lost their homes, right? That was a huge upheaval. I think there's no way that the prime minister is going to want middle-class families to be on the ropes when it comes to paying their mortgage. I bet you they'll do whatever they can to help extend those programs. So I actually feel that that's going to work out. And I know from talking to folks in the mortgage business that most of them are coming off the system. There's actually a small percentage I think will stay on. But even for that small percentage, I think there's a big incentive for the national government to make sure they don't lose their home and extend those programs, or at least give another lifeline of some kind. On the smaller picture side, again, I encourage folks to tune in on Monday for the OREA broadcast, our latest data. We have found a trend where renters are much more optimistic about getting into the housing market than they had been. So some potential business on the rental side for sure. And then we're also going to preview some policies that we're going to be lobbying government on to help Ontario's economic recovery through real estate. So we're going to talk about how we'll pitch a land transfer tax holiday to spur more supply in the marketplace, and a home renovation tax credit to help people fix up their homes. So we got to convince Premier Ford and the government to do this, but we're going to talk a bit about those ideas as well on Monday. And if we're successful, that will spur a lot of activity too.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking forward to that conversation actually, because when I've been looking at this and addressing a lot of people over the past number of weeks on this particular topic, that we're looking at these factors that are in front of us, that are unknowns. Again, school, employment rates, mortgages, second wave potential. What does that do to what our world looks like as we move ahead? And I mean, no matter what it is, as we said, people still want to be involved in real estate. There will still continue to be opportunities. I do think that, for folks that, if we look at, kids not going back to school, and we do look at the folks that, tapped in the program for deferrals and whatnot, at some point it's going to be time to, settle up. Right. And again, that's where, that's where the opportunity lies, right? Is to kind of be there as a trusted advisor for these people. And this, again, the big message being reconnect with your audience, stay in touch, be authentic, be there to help. And the more you do that, the more opportunities you can present for yourself.
Exactly. And the other measure reminded me of one, David, we've been saying, okay, when do people think they will get into the market? What's their likelihood? And originally it was around 9 months on average, because they were watching to see how the market played out, what's going to happen with their schools, all the things that you rhymed off. And then it shrunk a bit. So on Monday, we'll reveal the latest number as to sort of, who's on the sidelines and what their time frame looks to be when they will be interested in either buying or selling. But it is shrinking. It was farther out in the past. People are becoming more comfortable and more interested in getting back into the marketplace.
I want to ask you about, and I want to talk to that survey for a moment, in a moment, but I want to ask you, because I know that this is a big message that we've had, again, over this period of time. I know if you go to the OREA website, you will see a lot about this. And it's been a big key message to our realtors out there. open houses are back. What messages are we sharing out to agents in order to maintain a safe environment for everybody involved?
Yeah, I mean, number one is try to refrain, right? Like we believe, I'm just going to throw this up here. It should be last resort. Look, if your client demands it to do an open house, as last resort, but we think that would be really rare. So I put this up, our REALTORS COVID-19 relief.com over my shoulder here. The guidance is there for folks watching MindShare to go check it out. Look, first and foremost, you should still conduct as much business as possible virtually, whether that's initial conversations, certainly documentation, online for virtual tours and virtual open houses. The government has trusted us to say we are going to allow open houses. You need to follow the rules, but do so as a profession. And I want to say, David, I'm damn proud of the way that realtors and brokers have conducted themselves in this COVID world. It could have been easy to do scare tactics to raise a quick buck. We've refrained from that. Like realtors have set business aside to counsel clients to wait, to use precautions. Anytime that you visit a house, realtors are using PPE and other precautions to make sure we contribute to stopping the spread. Like I think we've done really well. As a result, the government has given us more abilities in the marketplace. But while open houses are legal, we do caution they should be a very last resort. And if your client does insist on doing them, limit the number of people, make sure you clean surfaces, open windows, doors, all of that. But the whole program is right here over my shoulder on the website. We strongly recommend that you follow it, but do divert business to the modern technology tools that consumers are increasingly comfortable with.
Yeah, and I would echo that is to encourage everybody to go check that out, OREACovid19info.com, and watch, learn. I mean, if you're watching from out of province right now, there's still a ton to learn here, right? There's a lot of guidelines, and as wild of a world as it is that we're living in right now, we still all have a massive responsibility to help keep each other safe, so we can just get beyond this and call this now history. So, beyond a lot of the information that you're sharing around, that is timely to open houses right now, what else is OREA doing to help realtors in their, navigate their day-to-day? Like what messages have you got out there? What kind of things are going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we made a one-stop shop for anything to do with real estate business and this crazy pandemic world that we find ourselves in through 2020, and then, who knows beyond. So I'll give you some examples, but again, over my shoulder, we put all in one space. So okay. a lot of webinars and material on best practices, FAQs on how to conduct business in this world, legal opinions on some of the trickier issues. We have, for example, if you're having trouble getting into a condo, what are your rights to do a showing in a condo? Can you use people who weren't deemed essential services? We put that there as well. So a lot on the gray areas of how to conduct business in this new world, you can find on our website. Also how to develop business, how to communicate better, how to use electronic tools. We did as well specialized standard forms that were made for emergency scenarios like this to help willing consumers transact business and to protect the realtor members. So a ton of information there as well. And for those that are feeling like all of us, the pressures on our mental health, our physical health, worried about business, we also have invested through the OREA board in support services. So whether that's for mental health counseling, financial coaching, for example, you have free services covered by your members' dues through OREA for this crisis. They've proven to be popular and effective programs. So somebody watching MindShare, I know they're all up people, they're driven people just by the nature of what you do, David, but all of us will have our down times and our worries, and they're confidentially to help you through that type of crisis. And the last thing is what we're doing on an advocacy side. So personal real estate corporations have been a driving thing for OREA. We got the current government, the other party supported it, to say, yes, they're gonna do personal real estate corporations. We expect news in a matter of weeks on making that absolutely legal in the province. The ability to use real estate agent, or realtor and advertising. So anything to do with government relations in this crisis too, you can find at the OREA site. So I spoke a lot there. Think of that as your encyclopedia to help you conduct business and succeed in the current crisis we have.
Oh, I love that. Even from the mental health part, we know that that is a massive, massive topic in our world, and COVID certainly, the impact that COVID has had on people's mental health, and just being as isolated at home and not getting out and seeing people like we're used to, and people like me that want to be out with people on a regular basis, it makes it hard. It really does. And I love the fact that you recognize the energy that comes out of Mindshare, and the fact that the people that are involved with Mindshare are certainly upbeat, but you know everybody's human, and everybody has ups and everybody has downs. There's good days and there's bad days. And I think that having that resource that you guys are providing for somebody just, to be able to lean on.
Yep.
Hey, if we go full circle again in this whole big conversation around campaign, this is part of it. OREA has even taken the opportunity to not just be an organization, an association, but to be a friend, to be somebody you can lean on. And
Yeah.
that
Well,
that right there goes, right in line with everything we've been saying today.
yeah, I feel like singing Sam Cooke right now as a result of that. But our whole there's a lean on me joke. Did I get the wrong singer there?
No, you know what?
You're too young to remember that song anyway. There was a
You're only
movie.
10 years older though, right? I mean, right?
But we at AREA, we do have your back. That's what our program is all about, to help give advice when we get through the crisis, to help affect good government decision making, to enable people to make real estate transactions, even during the darkest days of the crisis, professionally and safely. And very importantly, I'm like you, David. I thrive on human contact. It feels like a limb's been cut off when you're
Yeah.
cut off from humanity. So I get you down. And as well, or it could be a spouse who's lost a job, or just the weight of your clients who had big plans and they're running a small restaurant and they're worried about keeping the lights on. So you feel that too, right? That's realtors have been awesome about having the back of their clients. So we have your back and all those services to help you through this, again, at our AREA COVID-19 info.com website.
And I think realtors, as you take that same motto of we have your back, and you think about how can you have the backs of everybody in your community? How can you have the backs with everybody that's in your circle, your sphere, your contact list? You start thinking more about that than thinking about getting your next deal. And all of a sudden you're going to see the reciprocity come and the next deal will come. It's the focus on having people's backs. I love that line. So we've talked about the survey a few times. I'm curious, can you share a little bit more about that? Because you said something real key right there off the top was most people don't remember their realtor, right? What did we learn from this survey? Maybe there's a few key points you want to share about that.
Yeah, again, so it's monthly data. So we're doing a monthly consumer survey of people who are interested in transacting real estate, whether they're in the market now or they're thinking the next 2 years. So we throw out people who are not in the marketplace in any sense, those considering. That's a data set. Nick Nanos, you may have seen on CTV, is a very well-renowned pollster. Actually used to help me in my politics days. He does a lot of work for OREA. So he'll be on the panel. Stan Cho is an MPP from the Willowdale area in Toronto. Really interesting guy. He's a broker himself. He's a realtor and broker through Royal LePage, and really active in the community. He may be a Mindshare subscriber too. I don't know. I can see, right? So the resemblance. I met him, and then he saw my advice. He ran for office, and he got elected. So he plays a role as parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Finance. So I'm going to interview him.
Oh, cool.
And it's pretty cool because I can talk about, here's a guy who was in the real estate business and now has gone in politics and understands the market. And we'll talk to him about the ideas we have to help real estate support Ontario's economic recovery. Melanie Pichet, broker from the Brell team in Toronto, is going to be in the panel as well. So she's going to give her perspective on Nick's numbers and whether she's seeing the same thing, both in her markets in Toronto and Prince Edward County. So what will it be? Well, who's looking at the marketplace? How have their expectations of what they want changed? I think prices are going up or down. Do they want larger, smaller, rural or city living? When are they going to come into the marketplace? Are they more interested now or further down the road? Those are the types of data. And we also do regional surveys. It's not just Toronto, it's happening in Ottawa, what's happening in rural Ontario. I don't think there's any other snapshot like this, David, in Ontario that I've seen. Those that are interested in the marketplace, what are their perceptions and how they've been changed from COVID from the beginning? And what are the trends happening now that we're getting into a more open era?
Very interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to tuning into that. And I would encourage everybody to tap into that. We are momentarily going to open up our VIP room once we get off air over here. But I thought I'd ask you, before we get into a couple last questions, is there anything from an initiative standpoint or anything else that you wanted to share that maybe we didn't cover off today?
I think we hit on the basis, like the stuff I'm really excited about. We really hit on, and I'll just reinforce. So, like one of the top things that the board asked me to do when they hired me in 2016 was to modernize REBA, the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act. So that's been accomplished this year, and now we're starting to see the benefits. So October 1st has been the date the minister has set to allow for personal real estate corporations in Ontario and advertising rule changes. A big thing coming after that is to give RICO the ability to be, much more flexible, much more pinpointed in disciplinary duties to hold people accountable for those that break the rules. I think there's been a lot of us that are frustrated that the system in the past was too often a slap on the wrist for people who really broke the rules. So we said no more of that. We want people booted. We want them out if they're going to take advantage of people. So those greater authorities will be coming down the pipe too. So I'll just highlight the success on TRESA. And so the biggest milestone coming up will be personal real estate corporations as of October 1st.
Cool. Yeah, no, it sounds very exciting. That's very cool. What final words, I guess, just before we sign off the live broadcast, just maybe based on anything we just shared, but what kind of final words or tips or pieces of advice can we say to anybody who's tuned in to just help them get out there and build more mindshare and have a more successful day, week, month, career?
Yeah, I just want to first say thank you to you, David, and thank all those here in the business. I just am, really proud of realtors, brokers, and how they have been there, how they've had people's back through this crisis, right? We have never gone through anything like this in our lifetime, our grandparents' lifetime, and it was a real test of character. And the professionalism and the expertise and the compassion realtors have for people really shone through. And it could have gone in a totally opposite direction where you saw some other professions that looked pretty bad, got caught maybe with the hand in the cookie jar during COVID. Not realtors. They were putting the general population of Ontario first. And I think I'm really proud of that. So I want to say thank you right out of the gate. And number two, yeah, I appreciated the way we started this conversation. My 21 years in politics and my 4 years in real estate politics. That there, I think the three secrets of life that I had seem to play out really well in this world too. I believe that the rewards come to those who take chances, who stand out from the crowd, who are willing to take risks and not do the same as everyone else. Number two, nothing beats good old-fashioned hard work. If you develop a reputation for working hard and delivering, the rewards come on their own from that. So that traditional value is just as strong in 2020 as it ever has been. And then third, nothing can replace the benefit of lasting and trusting relationships. It's been part of my success. I'll preach it. I know you do as well, David. I think that's sort of what makes for success in real estate. Trusting, long-lasting relationships combined with hard work. Take a chance once in a while. It's a lot of fun besides.
Oh, I love that. Great advice. That is absolutely amazing. I've got one final question for you.
You sure?
What made you smile today?
This, you made me smile.
There we go. Cool.
No, it's a fun thing to do. I actually just came back from a bit of time off. So these last 3 days have been catching up with staff, making decisions. It made me very proud too that as a CEO, while I'm gone, that the staff continue to advance the ball down the road, right? They sort of anticipated where I would go on these decisions. They made calls. They didn't just sit there, and I was really happy to see all of that. So that made me smile as well. It was a bit of a tough summer. My father passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But he makes you smile too, right? He was an incredible guy, a great dad. See, now I'm all down again. But just what he did for me, sadly, he passed away too young and suffered from Parkinson's, and it robbed him of what he should have been enjoying in his retirement. But when I think about him, it makes me smile too. So there you go. I'll end it with that.
I was going to say that too. Is positive thoughts, and it's hard to put the sort of the sad parts away, and we should never put them away. However, try and remember the good times, and ride on that at that point.
Yeah, and a lot of what I learned, nobody greater than my dad for that, right? Be forever grateful. So that'll make me smile too, sir.
Well, those words just made me smile. So, Tim, thank you. I thank you for your time today. I thank you for all the insights, and a major thank you on behalf of the entire industry for everything you are doing for real estate here in Ontario, in Canada, and for all the great things you bring to everybody.
Thank you, David, and a great pleasure. Thanks for having me back on.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app, or maybe you went to my website, MindShare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the 7 Ways to Communicate ebook to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me and we'll set up a free consultation call to learn more about what you're looking to achieve and, well, how I will help you do just that. Wherever you like to consume your content, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at MindShare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. This has been another episode of the MindShare Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.